Volume this. Thanks for joining me. If you are joining now, I have the chat window open this time so that I can actually see people are responding. And of course, I'm getting phone calls right as we go live, and my dogs are barking. So I might have to DJ the audio here for a second. Apologies. All right, now I think we're clear of the barking. Of course, somebody comes home right as you go live. Perfect timing. The demo gods smite us all the time. So, anyway, one thing that I wanted to start off today with is we're about to roll out some really, really important functionality that we're calling tagging, which not a particularly innovative name. That's kind of on purpose, right? So what we want to do is allow users who are authenticated to the system to be able to tag things with tags that exist in the system, and for certain kinds of users to be able to add new kinds of tags to base. And so this is going to open up a whole slew of new ways to use the platform, to hunt in the platform. And we have a whole bunch of additional functionality coming to take advantage of that as we go through. We're not quite ready to show it live as a complete functionality yet, but I did want to at least mention a couple of things and show a couple of things really quickly. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my video. I remember I need to let's do that. Okay, whatever. I can't figure out how to turn off the video. This is a very fickle interface. Anyway, so you should be able to see my screen. You should be able to hear me, and I guess you can see me too. So anyway, as I mentioned, right, we have the tagging functionality coming out. So right here this is base.io. This is our actual site. And then we have our localhost site, which is our dev system. I just wanted to show. So right now we have, so this is actually where we're going to start our hunt today with an OpenDir site fingerprint. So we're renaming observables site fingerprints. It gets the point across a lot better. They essentially fingerprint a site, just like JA3, or as you up on the news, JA4, fingerprint sessions and things like that. We fingerprint sites, so we can identify other sites that look similar, that have the same kind of capabilities. That said, so over here, right, when you come into a site fingerprint right now, this is 16EED, blah, blah, blah. It's not particularly useful. There's not a good way to search for it other than searching in our search for this specific string. But what we're about to make available, this is again, so this is the live part. I'm about to show you the development side. This is the exact same screen, which I need to make bigger, with site fingerprint content with tags. So we can add new tags. And so we have something here already that are available, and I'm not going to add one because it actually adds it to the system. But what this allows us to do is now be able to search and to follow up on things, filter with those things, and we'll be plumbing it through our base early alert intelligence feed and all sorts of other things. So I just wanted to show it briefly. I think it's really, really important functionality that's coming. Expect to see it within the next week. I might do a detailed walkthrough on our next threat hunting Thursdays. But anyway, let's go back to what we have today. And so this is, again, that site fingerprint that identifies open directories. It identifies, as you could see over here on this string, it identifies the CGI bin open directory. So every time we see one of these, and let me just refresh it just to see what else we have. Okay, so we got a bunch more. So anyway, what we see here is the all of these sites, when we analyzed them, went through and they were identified as open directories that were not yet live. So we've got lots of different ones. You can see this security web update Wells Fargo. So let's pivot into that one just to look at it. I'll give you the screenshot. It's going to show you CGI bin. And, we think, in this case, we identified it, and we actually think that it looks like Wells Fargo. So this, in our system, in our API results, you would see impersonation and confidence medium, and you would see wellsfargo.com being specified as the account or domain being targeted. So really, really useful stuff. But let's pivot a little bit differently with this. So I apologize. I apparently zoomed in and it kept it across sessions. So anyway, one of them that I think is pretty interesting here, we see this attachment page 3458.duckdns.org. DuckDNS, if you're not familiar, this is a dynamic DNS provider. We can actually learn that here in Base. So we tell you knowledge about DuckDNS, and you can see owned by DuckDNS. You can see that its category is dynamic DNS. There's a whole slew of additional information that you can search, and all these things are clickable. But we're not going to waste time on that right now. You can do that on your own if you'd like. I do recommend it. It's really good starting points for hunting. But going back to this, actually to the screenshot. So let's click on that one. And we didn't know a brand that was targeted by this, right? So that's not a particular surprise, because it's a pretty vague statement. Their attachment page 3458.duckdns.org doesn't tell us a lot. But what we can do is go and pivot into our advanced search functionality and look for other things that look like this. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to go to search, and we're going to go to advanced search. And I actually want to do, let's see, I guess I don't need that. Let's see if I can find things that look like, we'll make this 0 through 9, and we'll make it, I believe this should work. We'll make it 1 to 5. Actually, we'll make it 3 to 5. There could be more because of the way I have this expressed, but let's go ahead and search. Let's see what happens here. So on the back end, we're looking just at the last day to see what are some other sites that match that regular expression, and hopefully we'll be getting back other results that are interesting here. We'll see here in a moment. And if this one is too expensive because of the regular expression, we'll do contains and we'll check things out slightly differently. But this one should hopefully come back here in a couple of seconds. No, it seems like it was too expensive. So let's come back here. And this is one piece that we're continuing to work on to make better. So expect that to be a little bit better in upcoming weeks. So let's search for attachment instead. So again, we're just going to search the last day, and we're looking for things that have the word attachment. Let's see if this bears any fruit. Fingers crossed we'll get results this time. Demo gods always get you. Okay, so this is what I was hoping to see, because I had seen some of these come through our Base Early Alert intelligence feed. So I knew that there were results. Anyway, so we searched for this first one, attachment page 3458.duckdns.org, which, again, if we pivot back over there, we see, well, we searched it again, but we see that, this was an open directory. So we don't need to reevaluate that one, but we see some of these other ones and see what did we find here. So we see attachment page account 258. Let's pivot on that one. And we see that that's been not around a lot. Okay, so we've got a handful of things there. So this is all just in the last 3 hours that we've seen it, and it looks like we first searched it or saw it today. So very, very new. We see that there's mail dot and www dot as children. So we can see, what else do we see here? So we see that this matched an IOC known to be associated with Facebook accounts. We also see that text and password were collected. So we see a couple of different things. So this is for an invalid.html. This one is for confirm.html. This is confirm2.html. So all of these are different pages associated with this attack. Let's just pivot into a couple of those, and we'll also open this one since we know that this one matched an indicator of compromise. So that's pretty clear as day. A Facebook or Meta, in this case, it's actually Facebook. Spam, this is a pretty standard one. We see this quite a bit. In fact, I have a friend who was very much primed to think that this was real based on some things that they had run into very, very recently in time compared to when this happened. And so they actually went and clicked on this. And just as they were about to enter their information, they realized, oh, this is probably phishing. So this is a college educated, really smart, really talented, tech savvy person. So to just dismiss phishing as only attacking people who are 80 plus years old, completely bogus. If you're primed to believe something, super easy to click on stuff and enter your information without thinking through. Okay. So what we've got here, we identified that credentials were collected, text and password in this case, and I think that's what so we've got text, which in this case is an email address or a phone number, and the password. It was sent to the verified.php page. So we're still on the same site here, and we can see this observable is associated with the indicator of compromise. We know that because it tells us right here. And we see that there aren't any links on this page, external links. So that one's a good find. Let's see what some of these other ones look like. Okay, so this is this is somebody who submitted the page after trying to submit information. And so we can see that it tells us the password you've entered is incorrect. And so this would make sense to group with that exact thing. So we've got over here, we had the structural ID of 350D4, our site fingerprint. And over here we have 2179. So we can pivot and see what else have we seen with this. By the way, we identified it as bad, so that's good for us. What can we see here? So we've got a whole bunch of different ones. This has been going on since July 15th, based on our system. 900 times in that time. So if you're part of Meta or Facebook's anti-abuse takedown functionality, this would be a really cool thing. Our site fingerprints, there's actually a binary, like an executable that we can share with trusted parties like threat research groups, vendors, threat intelligence platforms, and large companies like Meta, Facebook, those kinds of places, Google. Those are the kinds of places where we'd like to provide you with the binary itself so that you can offline do this calculation and find all the other sites that are on your infrastructure or that could end up on your infrastructure because it doesn't have anything to do with being hosted on DuckDNS. It just happens to be hosted right now on DuckDNS. This could tomorrow change to workers.dev, which is owned by Cloudflare, and it would be the same site fingerprint. So what we'd really like to do is get more of those organizations involved, because then they can stop the attacks. If you're Meta, if you're Cloudflare, etc., you can potentially stop it from ever showing up. Ever going live. Not so much for the Facebook example because it's hosted somewhere else, but for the Cloudflare example, we could stop thousands and thousands of attacks. Probably 80% of the attacks on Cloudflare group very, very well. We could stop all of them before they ever go live. It's crazy to think about how much power there is. It's just getting enough people to realize it. Anyway, soapbox step off. And what we have over here, right? So we have 900 different results, and we can see, again, we have the same exact kind of pattern: attachment account, business, attachment page account. We've got attachment business account. So literally just those three words kind of mixed up. And then we've got verify skier page. So they're trying to confuse regular expressions. Not a particularly surprising thing. We see it all the time. Attackers don't want to be discovered, so it's not a surprise that they're going to try to change the words. And again, these all are just from the last day. This is the first set of results. We could see, I don't know what else. We see different kinds. This is a github.io. This again points back to, it doesn't matter where it's hosted. It can all be grouped. Let's actually look at one of these that's completely not hosted in a cloud. It's hosted probably somewhere else, technoindiagroup.com. Okay, so this one, we weren't 100% sure of it because it's a little bit different than the other ones. If we had added this as an indicator of compromise, then we would have automatically identified it as bad. But we weren't sure because we explain right here. This is really important. We explain why we weren't sure. We see likely sensitive information, but it's really old. This is what, 15, 20 years old, 7,600 days. So it's likely that this is a compromised site that has content underneath it, right? And we can pivot and see, have we seen any other stuff for this? We actually first saw it yesterday, and what have we seen on it? So we see this repeat.php over and over again, confirm, and so on and so forth. We can see if any of these match the IOC that we were talking about. Oh, by the way, you can also see maybe this is when it finally was taken down, about an hour and a half ago. So really kind of interesting stuff. We could actually look back and see, did we see the IOC associated with this from, yep, there we go. So IOC. So we do know that at least this site has had the indicator of compromise that we're aware of. This is something where it would make a ton of sense to, for this IOC, which I'm actually going to make it a point to do, for this indicator of compromise. Let's go pivot on it. Right, we know what it looks like. We're going to come down here. We see this is the indicator of compromise. Let's go into that and learn a little bit more. So we first saw it in June, seen it through today, through a few minutes ago. We've seen it 700 times, 42 unique destinations, final destinations, and 18 additional credential collection. Where did it go? Destinations just in the last 24 hours. We now, right, we have all this information. But if you come back here and you go to the actual campaign, which will show us a result, you can see that we only have one indicator associated with it. So now I need to go and add those other indicators, the other ones that are associated with that, because it's obvious that they're related, right? We've clear as day identified that they are related. And so this would allow us to group and find all of those pages, even though we're still identifying the site as compromised or malicious and phishing against Meta and Facebook. We could actually tie all of those different indicators together and actually identify, hey, this is the screen where somebody's dropped into it. This is the screen where somebody entered in the wrong password. This is the screen where somebody did something else. We could go look at all the different steps that you go through. But that allows us to group the whole behavior without needing to go and look at strings in the HTML or anything like that. It's just automatically calculated for us, ready to go, and we can identify all of those different stages very, very easily. So that's that result. Let's see if there's anything else that we should pivot on. Actually, you know what? This brings up a good opportunity to show off one other aspect that I think is really powerful. So, right, we're in a campaign view right now, and you can see that there are brands targeted. You can pivot to these, and we're going to open both of them because they could technically be different. And what this is doing is hitting the back end and loading all of the information that we've seen that we've identified as Facebook, or in this case, Meta. Meta, it seems like we don't explicitly capture, but we've seen a lot. You can see that we have 6,000. We have a max cap on what we load at 6,000 results. But what this allows us to see is there are a huge number of attacks that we've identified explicitly target book in the last week. And just, today we've seen 1,300. Yesterday we saw 2,000. Tuesday we saw more than 2,600. And, that's realistically the fact that we're only calculating 3 days worth of results and hitting 6,000. If we see 2,000, there's probably 2,000 plus a day, meaning there's probably closer to 14, 15,000 different results that are actually in our system that are targeting Facebook right now that we've identified. So this actually allows you to go and you can page through all of these and see all of the different results that we've seen targeting them. So we got filesuser.com, attachment page account. That one matches the one that we just saw. This one up here, we actually saw credential collection to a site that we've seen a lot of. Down here, we see claimevent.xyz, ok.mybusinessSecurityService.myid. That void means a pop-up. We're going to make that better and clearer so that we can pull the actual content from the pop-up as time goes on. We got a Polish site here, or .pl site. All of these are just, of course the dog barks. All of these are different ways to identify the different attacks that we're seeing regularly. And so all of these are phishing. Let's and the other note to have here is we actually highlight the different destinations that we see, and we'll show you the first, I think, 5, and then if there are others, you can actually just go to the result and look at them. But each of these you can actually pivot into. Again, it's not a link to that site out externally to the internet. It's a link into Base to look at those results. This is a really powerful place, again, to kind of start hunting. We can look for some of the things that we see in here that might be useful to keep track of. So, Facebook.com, not a surprise, jsdeliver.com. These are all like backend infrastructure, or the brand highlighted here. Here's an upload.wikimedia.org, which is different than Wikipedia. We can actually see that this has been seen 60,000 times since March. And it's seen on lots of different sites, but there's very some subset of these sites, which we obviously know are very likely malicious. And so this allows you to pivot and see what are some of the things that we're seeing heavily being misused. And I'm not going to click into some of these because I don't want to accidentally pop up something that shouldn't be seen. But okay, this one's pretty like a not safe for work kind of thing, just to be clear. If you submit private stuff, we wouldn't be able to see your results. But anyway, this one looks pretty clear, like Facebook. I bet this is probably a mobile kind of one, because right here we see that all the buttons just look like they belong in a mobile site. So very likely associated with that. So yeah, we're able to identify that kind of stuff, and we see that credentials are going to the same site. Here, we could actually pivot and see how many times have we seen this particular template 600 times in the last 2 weeks. I mean, it's just crazy, the kinds of things. It looks like there's all right, business support license. Looks like we're seeing the same thing over and over again here. There's one, pagehelpadsalert.com. That one's different. So again, it just goes to show you don't need to what infrastructure it's hosted on. You don't need to think about what's the regex that I need to build. You don't need to think about any of those things. Base just calculates the fingerprint, and if you find it to be interesting, then you're good to go. You can just find all the ones that match that result. And we're actually going to be making that even easier to do. We're going to add functionality for some customers who are looking for an API that essentially has the emerging threats alert. So we have our, let me see if I can open something to show you quick. So apologies for the all of a sudden bright after all of the dark. So our Intel feed, which you can get to this from our homepage, API docs. It's in the top right corner. But anyway, this is our really highly detailed documentation. So our Intel feed. Right now, what you can do, if you look at the, let's look at one with everything populated. Wrap it. So if you come in here and you look at site fingerprints, apparently search the way I want it to here. Okay, so site fingerprints here. We got this kind of information. What we can do is take those site fingerprints, right? These are, in this case, it's known as a campaign. So we already have it as something that's known bad, but you could imagine if this is the first time that we saw these site fingerprints and we identified it as a phishing attack, you could imagine that we can say, hey, this looks like a bleeding edge indicator of possibly a new campaign. And so you're able to identify emerging threats platform without any kind of work on your analysis, on your analysts or on your CTI team, threat research, etc. You're just able to see, oh, this is a new indicator associated with a phishing attack that base saw in its base early alert intelligence feed. Now you can connect that to some other places. You can connect it to like automatic takedowns. You can connect it to all sorts of different things. So really powerful stuff. And I really hope that this kind of stuff ends up continuing to catch on more with more people. It's just, it changes the way we do takedowns. If you think about like the concept of needing to provide evidence about a site being malicious, guess what? It matches 1,000 other sites that are all identified as malicious and have been taken down already. No other evidence needed. You can automate that whole process. So I think this is probably a good place to stop. We'll be hopefully really demoing the tags next week. The one last thing that I wanted to show, no, actually I won't show that because I want to show it next week. But I really hope that this is useful. I also wanted to mention I'm probably going to do an Ask Me Anything kind of session middle of October, probably on a Wednesday, same time, but on a Wednesday, to allow whoever wants to ask me anything about base, about my career, about my philosophy on work, anything personal, like within reason, personal life, like fitness and all that stuff. I think it's really important to have people out there who are willing to share how they went through it with other people. I know that was something I always wanted when I was earlier in my career, and I still, really, mentorship doesn't stop. There's always new things to learn, and I have plenty of really useful mentors out there who teach me all sorts of things. But anyway, I think there's a lot of stuff to give back, and I've got a handful of questions that I've already been asked. So I'd love to answer those, and I'd love to answer any questions that anybody else who watches this or who sees the announcement that I'll put hopefully on LinkedIn later today or very soon has. So with that, and as my dogs start to bark again, thank you, and hopefully we will catch up next week. Take care.